Good relationships are built on trust, respect, and mutual appreciation. But what happens when someone takes you for granted, when they fail to see your worth until it's too late? You see, people don't change when they're comfortable. They change when they feel the loss of something truly valuable. And that's where you come in. Today, I want to talk about the power of walking away, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. Because when you know your worth, you don't beg for someone to see it. You make them feel the pain of losing you. And that pain, that's the greatest lesson they'll ever learn. Every person brings something unique to the table. Kindness, support, love, loyalty, and energy. When you invest your time and heart into someone, it's natural to expect recognition and appreciation. But sometimes, people fail to see the value of what's right in front of them. They get comfortable, they take things for granted, and they assume you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you. The truth is, staying in a situation where you are not valued only diminishes your self-worth. The more you tolerate being overlooked or underappreciated, the more you reinforce the idea that it's acceptable. People treat you based on the standards you set for yourself. If you keep showing up despite being disregarded, you send a message that you're okay with being taken for granted. The shift happens when you start recognizing your own worth. When you truly understand that your presence is a privilege, not an obligation. You stop seeking validation from those who fail to appreciate you. Instead of begging for attention or trying to prove your value, you remove yourself from spaces where you are not respected. Real value is never realized in comfort. It is felt in absence. The moment you step away, the void you leave behind becomes the lesson they never saw coming. They begin to understand what they lost, not because you forced them to see it, but because the absence of your presence forces them to feel it. That's when they realize it was never you who needed them. It was always them who needed you. Silence speaks louder. Distance teaches what presence couldn't. There's a certain power in silence that words could never match. When someone takes you for granted, arguing, pleading, or trying to make them understand your worth often falls on deaf ears. People rarely change when they feel comfortable, and as long as you're always there, they have no reason to reflect on their actions. Silence creates space for realization. When you pull back, when you stop explaining, when you stop showing up the way you used to, it forces the other person to confront the absence. They start to notice the missing calls, the unreturned messages, the empty spaces where you once stood. And in that void, clarity begins to take shape. Distance doesn't just create longing, it reveals truths. If someone truly values you, they will feel the weight of your silence and take action to make things right. If they don't, then their inaction speaks volumes. Either way, silence becomes the answer you were searching for all along. When you remove yourself from a situation where you were unappreciated, you give the other person a rare opportunity to experience life without you. And in that space, they either realize what they lost, or you gain the peace of knowing you were never valued in the first place. Detach with dignity. Walking away isn't weakness, it's power. Leaving a situation where you are not valued is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of strength. It takes courage to walk away from something familiar, even when you know it no longer serves you. Many people stay not because they are happy, but because they are afraid of the unknown. They fear losing the connection, even if that connection is built on neglect and inconsistency. Detachment is not about proving a point or seeking revenge. It's about recognizing when you have given enough and choosing to protect your peace. When you walk away with dignity, you don't beg for explanations, you don't seek closure, and you don't engage in unnecessary battles. You simply remove yourself from the equation, understanding that your value does not decrease just because someone failed to see it. People often only understand the depth of their actions when faced with real consequences. When you continue to engage, argue, or plead for basic respect, you allow them to believe that you will always be there, no matter how they treat you. But when you detach, you shift the power. You take control of your emotions and energy instead of allowing someone else to dictate your worth. Walking away gracefully leaves a lasting impression. It forces the other person to reflect, not because you push them to, but because they are left with nothing but their own actions to analyze. Dignified detachment is not about proving your importance. It's about knowing it. And when you know your worth, you don't chase, you don't force, you don't beg. You simply walk away, and in doing so, you show the greatest strength of all. Focus on growth, level up, instead of looking back. When someone fails to see your worth, the worst thing you can do is stay stuck in the past, replaying what went wrong, or wondering if they will ever realize what they lost. Growth is the greatest response to being undervalued. Instead of seeking validation from those who didn't appreciate you, channel that energy into becoming the best version of yourself. Pain can either break you or build you. It all depends on how you use it. When you focus on personal development, healing, and self-improvement, you shift your attention from what was lost to what can be gained. This isn't about revenge or making someone regret losing you. It's about elevating yourself to a place where their absence no longer affects your happiness. Invest in your passions, set new goals, and surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. Work on your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. When you level up, you create a life so fulfilling that looking back no longer makes sense. The person who once took you for granted will eventually notice the transformation, but by then you'll be too busy thriving to care. True power lies in choosing yourself over someone who failed to choose you. The best way to make them feel the loss is not through words, anger, or proving a point. It's through undeniable growth. When you rise above the situation, you make it clear that losing you wasn't just losing a person, it was losing an opportunity to be part of something extraordinary. Let actions teach. Words don't change people, consequences do. You can explain your feelings, express your frustration, and try to make someone see your worth, but words alone rarely create change. People don't listen when they feel comfortable, they listen when they feel consequences. When someone repeatedly takes you for granted, continuing to talk about it only reinforces the idea that you'll always be there no matter what. The most powerful lesson you can give is through action. Instead of arguing or trying to convince them to appreciate you, show them what life without you looks like. Stop initiating conversations, withdraw your presence, and focus on yourself. When they no longer have access to your kindness, support, and energy, they will begin to feel the weight of what they lost. People don't change because of long speeches or repeated explanations. They change when they realize what they had is no longer available. When they see that you are no longer affected by their actions, they start to question their own behavior. Did they push too far? Did they take something irreplaceable for granted? These are the questions that only silence and distance can make them ask. This isn't about manipulation or trying to force a reaction. It's about respecting yourself enough to stop proving your worth. Your value is not something to be explained, it is something to be felt. And when they finally understand it, it won't be because you told them. It will be because they experienced the consequences of losing you. Confidence is magnetic. Become someone they regret losing. Confidence is one of the most powerful qualities you can possess. When you carry yourself with certainty, self-respect, and an unshakable belief in your worth, people take notice. Nothing makes someone realize what they lost more than seeing you thrive without them. Unbothered, unapologetic, and unstoppable. When someone takes you for granted, it's easy to feel hurt, question yourself, or wonder what you could have done differently. But true power comes from shifting your focus away from them and toward building yourself into the best version of who you are. Confidence isn't about arrogance or trying to prove a point. It's about knowing you are valuable regardless of who sees it. Start by prioritizing yourself. Set goals, chase your ambitions, take care of your mind and body, and surround yourself with people who uplift you. The more you invest in your growth, the less you feel the need to seek validation from those who overlooked you. And the more secure you become in yourself, the more magnetic your energy becomes. People always notice what they can no longer have, When they see you thriving, smiling, and moving forward without them, it forces them to question their choices. They begin to realize that losing you wasn't just losing a person. It was losing an opportunity to be part of something extraordinary. And by then, you won't be looking back, because your confidence will have taken you somewhere far greater than where they left you. No room for begging. Demand respect by refusing to chase. Respect is never earned through pleading, convincing, or chasing after someone who fails to see your worth. The more you beg for attention, validation, or love, the less valuable you appear in their eyes. People respect what they have to work for, and the moment you stop demanding basic decency, you allow them to take you for granted. When someone shows you through their actions that they do not appreciate you, your response should never be to hold on tighter. Instead, it should be to step back and let them feel the absence of your presence. This isn't about playing games. It's about setting a standard. If they truly care, they will step up. If they don't, then you have your answer. Chasing after someone who mistreats you only teaches them that their behavior is acceptable. It tells them that no matter how they act, you will always be there, waiting, hoping, and trying to prove your worth. But when you refuse to chase, when you walk away with your head held high, you send a different message. You are not an option. You are a priority, and if they can't see that, someone else will. Letting go isn't easy, but nothing is more powerful than choosing yourself over someone who refuses to choose you. The moment you stop running after them, you shift the dynamic. They are left to wonder, to question, and to feel the weight of what they lost. And in that realization, they learn the lesson they never expected. You were never the one who needed them. They were the ones who needed you. Heal, don't hurt. Moving on is the best form of revenge. When someone takes you for granted, it's tempting to seek revenge, to make them feel the pain they caused you. But true power doesn't come from retaliation. It comes from healing. The greatest response to being undervalued is not anger, bitterness, or trying to make them regret their actions. It's becoming so at peace with yourself that their absence no longer affects you. Holding on to resentment only keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. The more you dwell on them, the more control they have over your emotions. Instead of wasting energy trying to make them feel what you felt, redirect that energy into your own healing. Let the hurt fuel your growth, not your revenge. The best way to show someone what they lost is to move forward without looking back. Focus on building a life so fulfilling that they become a distant memory. When they finally realize your worth, they will see that you are no longer available. They will see that you healed, elevated, and became someone they can no longer reach. And that realization will be far more powerful than any words or actions meant to hurt them. Your happiness is the real victory. When you let go of pain, resentment, and the need for closure, you free yourself, and in that freedom you show them and yourself that you were never broken, only becoming stronger.